Leading up to that presentation from Dr. Marks, we want to examine bias in our community. We're bringing you several stories that look at the role bias plays in our lives, including understanding what bias is. 41 Action News reporter Ariel Rothfield shows us how we can identify our own biases and explains what we can do about them.
Every day we are faced with thousands of decisions: what to eat, what to drink, who to sit next to. Psychologists say we often categorize or stereotype based on age, gender, and race because our brains are wired to automatically do so. It's called implicit bias.
You have kind of these unconscious biases or preferences or avoidances of different kind of experiences. And most often, implicit bias presents itself as kind of an immediate feeling or belief you have about somebody.
Dr. Gail Robertson says everyone has these biases, even if you think you don't.
We often talk about implicit bias kind of in those big topics of race and ethnicity, gender, and age, but it can happen across any characteristic of humanity. So height, weight, hair type, clothing choices. I mean, the list goes on and on and on.
And this seeps into every part of life, from traffic stops to medical care, banking to employment.
When it comes to hiring decisions, there's a good amount of research that tells us that well-intentioned hiring managers, people who really want to do a good job, often tend to favor people who are like them because they kind of more easily connect with them.
So how do you determine your implicit biases, what you have a preference for? One tool is Harvard University's implicit association test. This one is testing my preference for weight. It flashes images of people who are obese and people who are skinny with words like horrific, poison, pleasure, all moving so fast without giving you a chance to think about it.
It's a test that a lot of people don't like, actually, and they don't like the results.
UMKC law professor Mika Thompson says it's what you do after you see the results or identify your implicit biases that matters most.
Take it, and let it be at the very least something that causes you to think, to think about how you were brought up, to think about what you were exposed to.
The more you know about a person or a group of people, the greater likelihood you are to be able to catch yourself and reverse some of that automatic behavior or belief.
A lot of that unconscious association begins at a young age. A study out of Northwestern University found implicit biases among preschool-aged children, 4 and 5-year-olds, who rated images of black boys less favorably than images of white boys and girls, with black girls falling in the middle.
Children are never too young to learn how to combat implicit bias. And in fact, you can do a lot of work with very young children by exposing them to lots of different types of people so that they have different experiences, but also teaching them how to ask and learn about people in more than a surface level way.
Conversations that can be difficult to have with both kids and with yourself.
I'm glad that we're talking about it, but we have a long way to go in that if you admit that you have biases, which we all have, it doesn't mean you're a bad person. It just gives you something else to work on. And it is an acknowledgement kind of the society that we live in and the messaging that we're all exposed to.
Reporting in Kansas City, Ariel Rothfield, 41 Action News.